and welcome to another episode of Bookish and Bewildered. Yes, I'm in bed. I thought I would bring you into the boudoir so that we can hang out in our PJs and talk about books. Specifically, my TBR for October and spooky season. I'll come a bit closer, get a bit more cozy with you guys. Right, so I have a stack of books to my left and I wanted to talk about them with you. I wanted to keep things interesting this October, so I'm reading 7 physical books and 4 audible books, just to kind of chop and change the mediums up, keep things fresh. First up, we have Lights Out by R.L. Stine. Holly has been enlisted by her uncle to help out at his summer camp, Camp Nightwing. There have been a series of accidents that have almost closed the camp entirely, and her uncle really needs this summer to go smoothly so that he doesn't have to shut the camp for good. Unfortunately, when Holly gets to the camp, quite a lot of accidents start happening, and some of them are potentially fatal. So now Holly is on a mission to find out who wants to shut her uncle's camp and why this is happening. Next up, we have the darkly brilliant Rosemary's Baby. Rosemary and her struggling actor husband Guy move into this fancy pants New York City building, and it has a somewhat ominous reputation, shall we say. Their neighbours Roman and Minnie take a particular interest to Guy and Rosemary, and they take Guy under their wing. Suddenly, Guy has a particularly plum role on Broadway, and Rosemary discovers that she's pregnant. As Rosemary becomes more isolated, she suspects that her neighbours are not exactly what they seem. So that is Rosemary's Baby on my TBR for October. Next up, 5 Little Rich Girls. 5 Little Rich Girls follows a 17-year-old trainee detective who becomes embroiled in a homicide case when his girlfriend is murdered. It's an American gumshoe detective novel. It's billed as being old Americana detective. It's witty and sexy and quite short because it's only 144 pages. So that is also my TBR for October. I wanted something that was a detective novel, something that I could get my teeth stuck into, and was relatively short so that I can get into the flow of things. Next, we have a bit of Stephen King in Finders Keepers. This is a suspenseful thriller. Morris Bellamy robs a famous American author. He takes money and he takes a trunk full of manuscripts and notebooks. He gets caught by the police, but he manages to stash his booty and the loot in a trunk, and before he gets carted off to jail. So he's in jail, but as far as he's concerned, his ill-gotten gains are in a safe place. Unbeknownst to Bellamy, his ill-gotten gains become discovered by a young boy called Pete, whose family is in financial problems. They're struggling. His father had a horrific accident. He was in a line at a job centre, and he was ploughed into by Mercedes, which ties into a bunch of other stories by Stephen King. So his father can't really work, his family is struggling financially, and it's falling apart. So he sees this discovery of money and notebooks as a way of rescuing his family from destitution. So he starts to help his family. But then Bellamy is released from jail, and he comes looking for his loot, for the booty that he had hidden away. That's the only thing that was keeping him going in jail, and he wants to find out who took it, and he wants it back. So it's a bit of a cat and mouse suspenseful thriller. Will Bellamy discover Pete? Will Pete remain hidden from Bellamy? What is going to happen? I don't know, so I'm really looking forward to reading this book. Next up, we have Final Girls by Riley Sager. Quincy, Sam and Lisa are the sole survivors of 3 separate killing sprees. They're not friends as far as I know, but they are aware of each other and have, I think, been in touch with one another. Sadly, one day Lisa dies under mysterious circumstances, and Sam arrives on Quincy's doorstep. And Quincy's life starts to unravel. She's been very careful, she's very mindful of who she lets into her life, and when Sam turns up on her doorstep, it turns her life upside down. First there was 3, then there was 2. Maybe there can only be one final girl. That's the question. Now, Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is a dark academia novel by Leigh Bardugo, and it follows this miscreant Alex Stern, who is given a second chance. She's given an opportunity to attend Yale and have a fresh start due to some unusual abilities that she possesses. On the surface, she's just another student, but she's actually only one of a few people on campus who police Yale's magical societies. And there's a murder too. Look at the cover as well. How pretty is that? I mean, look, it's all, can you see that sort of shine? I know you're not supposed to judge a book by the cover, but wow, I love that. And next we have Plain Bad Heroines. This book, much like Ninth House, is a dark academia novel, and it's about Brooke Hant's School for Girls, which is the site of a number of tragic deaths that happened over 100 years ago, which forced the school to close. Now the doors of the school have been flung open again for Hollywood because they want to film a horror film about the Brooke Hant's curse. But strange occurrences start to happen again on the campus, and past and present begin to blur into one. I've heard that this novel is satirical, it is atmospheric, it's sassy, there are curses, it's dark academia. What more could you possibly ask for? And look at the cover. Again, such a fickle bitch. I really like it. I hate wasps. I think everybody hates wasps. Everybody normal hates wasps. But yeah, that should be an interesting read to tuck into for spooky season. For my audiobooks for this month, I have chosen the following. The Elementals, which is a Southern Gothic horror by Michael McDowell, who is a screenwriter of Beetlejuice. A family assembles for a funeral and to spend the summer on their family estate, but something supernatural and deadly lies in wait for them. This is billed as a haunted house story with a difference, and as it's by Michael McDowell, who is, as I said, the screenwriter of Beetlejuice and The Nightmare Before Christmas, I'm really interested in this book and what I think of it. I'd never heard of Michael McDowell before, you know, it's awful of me, but apparently his books are getting a bit of a revival right now, and I'm here for it. It's a gothic horror and it's bound to be good. We will see. I think it's definitely in the theme of Halloween and it's really got the right aesthetic and vibe. I'm not sure how scary it's going to be, but I do love a good gothic novel. The next book on my Audible selection for my October TBR is Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. Jules is recently heartbroken, broke and down on her luck. We've all been there. She sees an ad as an apartment sitter at a fancy pants building called the Bartholomew. The salary for the job is amazing, but she soon discovers that things aren't always what they seem. And when something seems too good to be true, it most likely is. Sounds interesting. I have heard on the grapevine that it's quite a polarizing book. People either love it or they hate it. So again, it's an Audible book I'm going to be popping on whilst I'm at work and I'm pottering around the house doing odds and sods. So I will be very interested in my own thoughts on this Riley Sager novel. Next up is the Final Girl support group by Grady Hendrix. We follow Lynette as our main protagonist, who is one of 6 women in a support group for final girls of killing sprees. They've been meeting for years, but suddenly they're being killed or targeted by an unknown person, and it's up to Lynette to figure out who and why. And last but not least is another book by Michael McDowell called Wicked Stepmother. Now, I am technically a stepmother myself, so I'm always quite sensitive about stepmothers automatically being billed as evil, because we're not. But there you go, I'm going to give it a try because it's Michael McFrickin-Dowell. Wicked Louise seduced and killed her husband, and now she has everything she could ever want since she was a poor little girl, except the mansion and multi-million-dollar trust fund that's been left to her late husband's 3 children. But what wicked stepmother couldn't get rid of 3 children, am I right? The audience knows that the stepmother is planning to do away with her 3 stepchildren, and we're just along for the ride, and we hope that the family is going to find out this evil plan of their stepmothers. We're hoping that the children, who are really adults by now, discover the plan before it's too late, but that's the suspense of the story. That's where we're coming in from. And that is my TBR. These are the 7 physical books that I will be reading, and I have 4 Audible books that I will also be indulging in for the spooky season. Anyway, thanks so much for hanging out with me. It was a very short and sweet video. I just wanted to kind of chill out in my bedroom, in my pyjamas with you guys, and chat about some books. But that's what is lined up for this month. Thank you so much for your time, my lovelies, and I will catch up with you shortly, no doubt.